Cambridge I'm with Sean is a Weirding Way Media podcast.
Who's laughing now? Shut up!
Hello and welcome to episode 35, if you can believe it.
And if you can believe it.
Of Cambridge and with Sean, yours and my favorite podcast ever.
That's right.
Round of applause, cheers.
There's nothing else really to listen to
No.
out there.
Well, what are you going to listen to? Conan O'Brien? Amy Poehler?
Mark Maron? That's my little joke.
Yeah, fuck that guy. No, I'm just...
I actually miss Mark Maron now that he's not doing his podcast anymore.
Oh, he's stopped. I've listened to bits and pieces of it, just depending on the guest, but
Yeah.
God, I haven't listened to a podcast. Here I am making two, and I have basically stopped listening to podcasts.
I think the more you make of something, the less you're involved in it out there in the universe of that thing that you're doing.
Probably.
I highly recommend you go back and listen to the Nick Cave Mark Maron episode. I think that was like 5-6 years ago. It's a really good interview.
Cool.
There are a few of those. That's one that I listened to a couple of times, actually.
Very cool.
One of these days, we got to talk about Nick Cave on here.
It feels like it's been longer than a month again for some reason. Thought about that yesterday, and I thought, man, why does it seem like it's 5 months between recordings when it's just a month?
I think bleak world situations and
Yeah.
those types of scenarios make time go by real slow.
That's going to come up today because I kind of had a revelation yesterday.
Ooh.
Because I'm going to keep talking about, I'm not going to talk about build videos, but the extrapolations that have happened because of them is sort of what I'm going to get into today.
I love that.
Are you going to be talking about Jiminy Cricket, or did you?
I am. I'm going to be talking about Jiminy Cricket, and I'm also going to be talking about build videos too.
Okay.
And then another thing that I'm excited
Oh,
about.
another thing. Holy moly.
They're all short things. It'll be reasonable.
Yeah, you know what? Who cares? It could be 3 hours long for all I care. Have you broken your New Year's resolution since last we spoke?
I did. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's since last we spoke, but I kind of told you that I would be doing this. But yeah, see this Jiminy Cricket, this large Jiminy Cricket back here? That's a sipper from Disneyland.
Oh, right.
2 trips ago to Disney, which would have landed right between our last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I picked up Jiminy Cricket. I've broken my New Year's resolution, I would say 3.5 times, because the half is the Happy Meal French fries changeable, because part of that was just buying lunch. I've broken it 3.5 times, and I feel pretty good about it.
Well, do you have anything since the last episode?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
There's been 2 Jiminy Crickets. What was the other thing? Well, that's embarrassing if I can't even remember what the other thing was.
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
I'm trying to think. Did you get something on your last trip to the antique stores with Jeff? With Jules?
Oh, that's what it was. And it actually did happen between our recording sessions, and that was Captain Crook.
Right. Yes, I knew there was something.
That was something that absolutely had to happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially for that price.
Yeah. What was it? $15 plus it was on sale. So I got it for like $8. Folks that listen to this, folks that watch the YouTube channel stuff, McDonald Land Remco figures has been something that Mark and I just love. I was missing Captain Crook, and he was complete.
Nice.
With the scarf. I mean, most of the time.
Glorious scarf, yeah.
His glorious scarf and his hat and everything. And his pants are a little saggy, but that goes with the territory, I think, for Remco. How about you?
Well, I'm trying to think. I feel like I had another thing, but I ordered something last week I won an auction on eBay last week.
Nice.
And it hasn't arrived yet. It actually hasn't even shipped yet. And I'm kind of pissed off at this guy or gal. And so I messaged 2 days ago, will this be shipping soon? And got the reply, yes, I'm shipping it today or tomorrow. So Thursday, yesterday, and I still don't have a shipping notification on Friday. If it doesn't ship over the weekend, I'm going to reverse my order.
Yeah.
'Cause this is bullshit.
You snooze, you lose.
What I ordered, because I'm on this kick right now, because I did the Mr. Grape build, the Franconia Tomy wind-up toys, and there hasn't been a lot of that on eBay. It's something I check pretty frequently, and it's the banana mainly that I see, and they're all $30+. There was an apple on there that's been on there for at least 3 years when I discovered them, that they're trying to sell for $80. And I'm like, what? Just half the price? I mean, why are you holding on to something for, we've talked about this before, but half the price and then maybe unload it instead of holding on to something for 3, 4, 5 years at this specific price.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're worth that much, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, if you're not selling something, I've sold stuff on eBay. If it doesn't sell at the price after a couple of months, after I would say like 3 or 4 months, then you just bring the price down, especially if people are watching it.
Yeah, I don't know how many times this guy's relisted this thing, but I got the Miss Pear.
Ooh, nice.
Part of my goal with these is to get the 6 walkers, and I have the 6 matching pencil toppers. So I missed the auction the first time. It's like $7.99 was the starting bid. And I, of course, got sidetracked and missed out on it. And then it was immediately relisted. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to try and keep track of it better this time. And placed a bid that morning at $8.25 or whatever, the amount, $8.25. I just do a little bit over the initial bid price and won it. I wasn't gonna like fight for it or anything, just put in a bid, won it. Now of course, typical fucker hasn't even sent it yet, so
that's
whatever.
Messed up. I mean, especially for the items that we're bidding on, like you're purposefully watching it, bidding on it, making sure you don't overspend, but also making sure you don't lose it. So it takes a lot of energy from the buyer to be involved in that. And then for the seller to just not care that's just bad business.
To me, it's this. You've got an item, it should already be ready to go.
Yeah.
Whether it's an auction or buy it now. I would say 90% of what I get on eBay, I get the shipping notification that day. That doesn't necessarily mean it's shipped, but they're ready to go. It's like automated, kind of like, okay, somebody bought this, print out the shipping order, and then get it to the post office as soon as I can. The other thing that drives me nuts is that at some point years ago, the dynamic shifted on buyer versus seller. So I haven't sold anything on eBay in years. But when I did, if someone bought something and paid immediately, then I immediately left them feedback because they did their part.
Exactly.
Kinda like what you're saying. They paid, and I'm not waiting around a week for payment or anything like that. So they played their part. Now it's like, oh, I'm going to wait until they get it and leave me positive feedback before I leave feedback for the buyer.
Right.
To me, that's bullshit. I did my part. If you fuck this up somehow and I leave you negative feedback, that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can respond to negative feedback, so it's like, what's the problem anyway? You know? So anyway, that kind of drives me nuts. It doesn't always happen. I do see some people have already left me feedback when I've purchased something, but most of the time, sellers wait until they have received their feedback to leave you, the buyer, your feedback. And I think that's backwards. Yeah, so that's the only thing I've gotten. Feel like there's something else, but I guess not.
Well, I got to talk a little bit about the feeling that breaking my New Year's resolution gives me. It's sort of an interesting thing that I didn't think about until just recently, and that is when we make New Year's resolutions, we're intentional about it, and we're realizing, okay, I got to make this change about my personality or the way that I carry myself in the world, or I need to be careful about, my spending or whatever it might be. The fact that I made the New Year's resolution for a particular reason has allowed me to realize just how much I enjoy my collection as it is, but also help me feel like when I do break it, it's for something that's genuinely important to me. So Jiminy Cricket, there's not a lot of merch out there. So whenever I run into something, it's really hard for me to resist it. But that's very, very rare for elements that you know you're going to be part of your collection, that you know you're absolutely going to treasure, like Captain Crook. It's a good feeling breaking the resolution rather than a feeling of guilt. It has improved my urgency to buy at every turn. That is something that I've seen a genuine improvement on. There's a shit ton of Masters of the Universe stuff coming out right now because of the movie. There's everything from a bunch of different action figures to like cat treats that's like Masters of the Universe branded stuff. Beer steins, cat treats, pajamas, costumes, action figures, vehicles. I mean, I'm watching the releases because, of course, it's in my Instagram feed. And I'm like, man, if I was a Masters completist, I'd be in trouble. And I know some of them, actually, and I'm worried about them. There's some cool stuff coming, too, that I'm like, wow, if I was really feeling the pull, I'd be breaking my resolution left and right. But I'm so happy with what I have with Masters stuff. The movie merch isn't quite pulling at my nostalgia strings just because it's so different from the vintage stuff that I love. So we'll see. It's been interesting to measure my emotional stability or instability in watching this stuff.
You got this, bro. This will be a dry year for both of us for different reasons. I made no resolution and don't plan to, but I haven't bought hardly anything either. Oh, that makes me think of the latest Mego release.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I think that most people figured they would do, and we probably even mentioned it, they released an Avengers set, and it is all remakes of previous Mego figures. So all these figures were originally done by them. So you have Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the Incredible Hulk, probably the four biggest.
Yeah.
I mean, they've all had their own multiple movies as well as Avengers films. So pretty interesting. There was no lead up, or I didn't see any lead up to it, but it was like these are being released on Friday. They were $10 more than the previous sets. Yeah. And I think part of that is probably the tooling for Thor. Thor came out at the end of Mego's World's Greatest Superhero line, so it had a lot more going on. The face sculpt is a lot more accurate and the costume's pretty detailed, and they had fixed the way they were doing things. It's funny to look at the progression just in the set. Captain America was one of the first Marvel figures they did, and he's very funky and very basic. And then Iron Man was a little bit later, and they got a little bit more advanced with him than Thor towards the end there, where they were really upping their game. I'll talk about it when I talk about Megos more at some point, but it's funny how they never went back and spruced up the old guys. Like Batman and Robin stayed the same their entire run. And they didn't redo the emblems to make them not stickers. They didn't fix the fucking oven mitt gloves.
Yeah.
They just kept
I love the oven mitt
reproducing them. And they would change things, like the design of the stickers change.
Yeah.
Because they had to redo the art at some point.
Right.
But they didn't make it like the iron-on things like the Fantastic Four had, which they easily could have done. Anyway, more on that some other time. It's pretty cool. The Iron Man is a strong pull for me, but I'm not buying a $100 set to have.
Yeah.
And I have Iron Man, Captain America, and original Hulks anyway.
Yeah.
The Thor figure does not interest me. As detailed and advanced as it is, I have no real pull for Thor. So,
you know, that Fantastic Four set, the price hasn't changed. It's still $89.99 or whatever it is at Disneyland. Saw it there this last time. When I was talking to my wife about this, I was like, it doesn't feel like $89.99 is worth it for this set. And then she pointed out, well, if you break it down, price per figure, it kind of makes sense. At the same time, you have to think, is it worth it to save that money and buy the vintage versions? Or is it worth it to spend a little bit less and buy the new versions?
To find the vintage versions for anywhere near that price.
Yeah,
You're not going to find one of the figures for $89.99 at this point. I'm dead serious.
I believe you.
All right. We'll take a quick break, and then Ronnie's going to hit us with his main topic for the day. Or maybe something else. I don't know. Got like 5 things to talk about, so I guess we'll find out.
We'll see how it goes. Might be more.
Take the straight and narrow path, and if you start to slide, give a little whistle. Give a little whistle. And always let your conscience be your guide.
What you going to talk about, Guy?
So my first subject to discuss today is Jiminy Glick.
What's your big beef with the Nazis?
What's my big beef?
Yes, it seems like you're always
What's
knocking.
my big beef?
Everything you're always knocking the Nazis. Oh, it's time for Mel Brooks to knock the Nazis, it seems.
Glick it. Opportunity for a Jiminy Glick clip.
Oh my gosh, I love Jiminy Glick.
There's about 1 million to choose from, so.
Yeah, I think like Jiminy Glick, as far as sound clips go, is essential. There's so many of them. When it comes to visual GIFs or GIFs, it's all about Steve Rule for you and I. Yeah. But like audio clips, I think I could listen to Jiminy Glick talk all day long every day. If you don't know, folks, Jiminy Glick is Martin Short. And if you haven't watched Jiminy Glick, look it up. You'll be stuck for hours watching those interviews.
He plays an interviewer with an acerbic tone. Well,
I would say like
that might not be the right word.
Acerbic, but razor sharp meanness that's hilarious and incredible. Anyways,
I was hoping for an A-lister, but I'm thrilled to have you, Bill Hader. You are a pre-book, but you're a wonderful spirit. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bill Hader, it's not really a star's name, is it?
No,
like Leo DiCaprio.
I'm not talking about Jiminy Glick. I'm talking about Jiminy Cricket a little bit today, as promised from the last episode. We kind of touched on some of this stuff in the previous episode, but I think a good place to start with Jiminy Cricket is, number one, he is surprisingly, at least from what I've experienced in this world and being a fan of Disney stuff, not as popular a character, which is strange to me because he is basically representative of Walt Disney himself. Mickey Mouse is Walt Disney, obviously, but I think Jiminy Cricket is the narrator version of Walt Disney. And it's interesting because he does show up in a lot of cartoons, shorts beyond Pinocchio as that narrator, as that person, that character that brings the audience into a scenario. And so it's surprising to me that there isn't more merch out there, that there isn't more of a, I'm sure there are people listening maybe to this that might be like, I'm a big fan, but I don't really see there being a lot of interest in Jiminy Cricket, which is strange to me. But yeah, he basically represents Walt Disney. You know, not only does he serve a important purpose in the film Pinocchio as the voice of reason, as the let conscience be your guide type of character for Pinocchio. His voice is incredible. I don't know if listeners already know this, so forgive me if this is information you're already familiar with, but Cliff Edwards did the voice for Jiminy Cricket during the years when Cliff Edwards was alive. He started off as a ukulele musician and was very, very popular, sold a lot of records. And when he became part of the Walt Disney Company to voice Jiminy Cricket, he did a few other characters too. His voice became synonymous with Jiminy Cricket. When You Wish Upon a Star, Give a Little Whistle, songs like that are iconic Disney songs that show up pretty much everywhere, always. That voice, for me as a kid, this is interesting because I thought that was what Walt Disney sounded like, even though I was familiar with Walt Disney from The Wonderful World of Color reruns that would show up on TV. Whenever I'd hear Cliff Edwards talk, I just immediately just pictured Walt talking. Have you watched the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio yet?
Yeah, when it came out on Netflix, we watched it.
So that follows the storyline of Pinocchio closer to the Carlo Collodi story that was written in 1883. It's definitely scarier, and the cricket is not treated as well in the original story. He doesn't really serve the same purpose, and Pinocchio actually ends up killing the cricket not too far into the story, so that the choice to make Jiminy Cricket be this narrator character is purely Disney. The choice to have the cricket be more of a through line or important plot device in Pinocchio is purely Disney. I don't have a particular preference. I actually feel like both versions of Pinocchio serve important purposes. And I know that so many of us that grew up watching Disney films, our perception of animals may have been influenced by Disney films, putting personalities on animals, human traits on animals. I know that every time I look at my dog, yesterday, here's a good example. Yesterday, our dog caught and brutalized a gopher.
Weesh.
He's never done that before. I was initially surprised, and then I had to remind myself, like, what do I know about this dog's instinct?
Yeah.
Everything about him doesn't seem like a dog. Everything about him seems human to me in the way I look at him. And is that Disney influencing my perception of animals? Because he breaks into song and has conversations with me.
Yeah. Well, that goes to a point in my head. This is totally a tangent, but the assholes who refuse to leash their dogs when they're out.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, you don't understand. This isn't protection for my dog. It's protection for your dog. If your dog runs up on my dog unleashed and my dog kills your dog, that is not my dog's fault.
Right. But guess what that person's going to do?
Right.
They're going to fight you on that.
Leash your fucking dogs, people. That's up there with put your shopping cart back for me. That says a lot about a person.
How hard is it to put your shopping cart back?
Let's not
How
get
hard
into
is it to leash? The name of this episode is Shopping Carts Unleashed.
I've heard and seen all the excuses, and I just don't give a fuck.
Well,
it means you're a bad person as far as I'm concerned.
We could go on and on about parking lot rules being broken left and right by privileged people out there, right?
Anyway,
Jiminy Cricket.
Old man yells at cloud.
Who's laughing now? Shut up!
Yeah, exactly. And you know what, though? Own it. Because if no one speaks up about these things that people do out there, just not caring about other people around them or the world around them, if no one says anything, then who knows what human beings would do? They're already doing a lot.
We're finding out right now.
I thought it was interesting in doing my research. I had a feeling about this, but Jiminy Cricket, first of all, not only is Jiminy Cricket's character altered for the Disney version, but also the name. So he's just Cricket in Pinocchio, the original Pinocchio story. The movie, he's Jiminy Cricket, which is derivative of Jiminy Christmas, which was like a statement of exclamation, an old-timey statement of exclamation. And Jiminy Cricket evolved from that, which is also derivative of Jesus Christ being a statement of exclamation. Jesus Christ leading to Jiminy Christmas, leading to Jiminy Cricket. And then Walt Disney chose to use that as a statement of exclamation in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs as well. Like one of the dwarfs says Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Crickets.
Subsequently, when developing the character with Ward Kimball, who's actually the designer of Jiminy Cricket, they decided to name him Jiminy Cricket based on that statement of exclamation, which I thought was interesting. I don't know if you've seen the short Goofy Goes Fishing, and he brings his cricket friend with him and to help him fish and be sort of a live bait. Goofy's kind of an asshole in that cartoon. He like puts his little bestie, who's a cricket, out there to be captured by fish. And there's a moment where it gets a little sad. Like you think that the cricket's been consumed, and the design of Jiminy Cricket at the beginning stages was a bit more like a cricket, which is a little bit not so cute, with the hairy, sharp bristly legs and stuff like that. But Ward Kimball really helped create a more lovable version of Jiminy Cricket. And for me, I think I don't know exactly why this character appeals to me. That's something that I haven't been able to figure out yet. Is it just the sound of Cliff Edwards' voice? Is it just the purpose of this character? Is it the fact that in my mind he was a version of Walt Disney? And I haven't quite figured it out yet. Is it because the merch pertaining to Jiminy Cricket or toys pertaining to Jiminy Cricket are few and far between? I know that's why I was drawn to Skeletor and Beastman as a kid, was that I missed the boat on them. I didn't buy them. I didn't see them in the stores, but my friends had them, and I kind of craved having them in my life. And so maybe the same thing for Jiminy Cricket. Pinocchio still remains one of my favorite Disney films, and not just for Jiminy Cricket, but also the quality of the animation, the songs, and the strange scenarios, you know, the kids changing into donkeys, Monstro the whale. Like, that's a crazy movie. And I recently rewatched it about 4 or 5 months ago. And around the same time, also rewatched Snow White. And both of those movies are so good. Definitely don't watch the live action versions of either one of them, because those are both absolutely horrible. Those early animated films have a certain edge to them. There's a certain darkness to them that has been ironed out over the years as Disney has become a more corporate, sort of sugar-coated version of itself. That Jiminy Cricket does it for me. And so when I saw online that this Sipper was available at the Disney parks, I was like, well, fuck yeah, that's something that's unusual. Just like the Abominable Snowman, the original Abominable Snowman being sold as a Sipper as well. When Disney does that, we're going to give them something that we don't often give, or that we feel like may not even sell well. It reflects such a niche corner of the Disney universe. When they do things like that, I get real excited. And so much so that talking about Jiminy Cricket today, breaking my New Year's resolution twice since January 1st, 2026, because of Jiminy Cricket, and all that feels good. It all feels good to me.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries. Like I said last time, I remember him being pretty constant.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was present in, well, like we've said, he was like the spokesman.
Yeah, for sure.
At least the TV stuff, which is what I mostly saw. I mean, we saw some films in the theater, but it was weekly on TV, Sunday nights.
One of my sort of pet peeves, you know, I don't want to complain too much because Disney Plus gives me a lot of vintage Disney stuff. Really, when it comes to Disney Plus, if you were to watch my watch history on my channel, because our family, we all have our different little icons for our different
profile.
Was that called?
Profile, yeah.
On my profile history, it's all like vintage Disney stuff. But what I really wish we could have on there is those episodes of Wonderful World of Color, those reruns that you and I grew up watching on regular television, full episodes. There are some on there. There's a smattering of them. There's selected episodes that you can watch, but I've already watched them all like 3 or 4 times each. Pre-opening report of Disneyland. You know, I mean, there's Disneyland during the holiday season or whatever it's called. I really wish that those would be on Disney Plus, and I hope one of these days they choose to put them on there. Jiminy Cricket would show up as that narrator and sort of be representative of the voice of Disney. That was cool. Jiminy Cricket's kind of like that cool uncle that you want to hang out with regularly, that you only see, you know, on holidays or whatever. How about you? What's your first item for discussion?
Well, I'm not going to talk about a build, but it's build related because I am still doing stuff, even though I thought I was going to take a break. And I realized part of why this is happening, which I mentioned earlier, and that is it's a distraction from the awful world we live in currently.
Yeah.
And I know that saying that comes from a place of privilege where it's like, oh, well, I can have this thing to keep me from thinking about all this crap that's happening to other people and who can't escape that with a diversion of nonsense, that doesn't really matter or mean anything, making these stupid hamburgers and pencil topper creations and all that stuff. So I fully realize that. But as I've been doing it, and I mentioned however many episodes ago, the Officer Big Mac build will be up on Instagram because I had attempted to figure out iMovie and really couldn't. On my computer, I was trying to figure it out. And I still am flabbergasted by this, but you told me that you do all of your stuff on your phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I've got iMovie on my phone. I figured out, I can put multiple clips on here and fade instead of splitting up each clip for a post on Instagram. I'm like, oh, well, I can combine painting stuff all into one clip so people don't have to keep swiping, blah, blah, blah. I figured that out on my phone, but I'm like, there is no way I could sit here and edit a 15-minute video it would drive me absolutely bonkers. I can't see the timeline. I'm like, I don't know how Ronnie does that.
I have the exact opposite feeling, a similar feeling, but in an opposite scenario. When I sit down and I try and edit videos on my desktop computer, my brain just wants to explode. I feel like on my iPhone, for some reason, the concentrated limitation of it allows maybe it's because of my ADHD brain or something, but it allows me to focus on one little thing at a time. I'm trying to save up for a better camera so I don't keep using my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I'm going to have to get used to using the desktop computer. And that's going to be, I'm a little scared about that. But
I did the Officer Big Mac that was all on Instagram. There were like 18 or 19 posts. And then I kept playing around with iMovie on my computer, and it happens accidentally, like, oh, that's how you do that. Because Mac stuff is not intuitive at all.
Yeah.
Nothing they produce is intuitive. GarageBand
they're trying to make it intuitive, but then who are they speaking to?
I don't know, because the terms they use, they're like, this is what I meant to do, splice something, but they call it this. It's like, well, what the fuck? So GarageBand is the same way. Before I started Wake Up Heavy, I watched all these tutorials, so that helped. And I thought, well, duh, you can do that with iMovie too. I had 2 old clips in the media box that I couldn't get rid of. It's like, this is being used. I'm like, I'm not using it. All this stuff. And then finally I'm like, oh, it's down here. So delete it there. And then you can delete it here. But how do you create a new thing? And I thought you just kept like bringing stuff in and then making a movie and then deleting it. Then I accidentally hit the My Projects button. Everything happened by accident at first. I'm like, oh, well, that takes me back to where you create a new project. Okay, got it. Once I realized, oh, I can just bring in all the clips from the Officer Big Mac thing and string them all together, I can turn it into one long movie, quote unquote movie. Yeah. Oh, well, there's titles, there's crossfade and on the blur and all that.
Yeah.
Transitions. I'm like, okay, so you drag that down, you can drag that down, you can bring in music, you can blah, blah, blah. That first thing I did was string all the Officer Big Mac clips together. And then I'm like, well, why am I doing this? I don't have a YouTube channel. And so I asked you to post it. You did. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And by the way, it got the most views out of any of the Burger Build videos, just so you know.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know why that is.
It's so important that you started a channel because people don't like my builds on my Skelevator channel that are not Masters of the Universe related because I created this expectation for my viewers. And as you can see in my views, with the Masters of the Universe builds that I'm doing, like, it's getting a ton of views, whereas the other things get less.
Yeah, so shortly after that, as I started the Mr. Great build, 2 things happened. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to gear this toward Instagram. I don't have to do everything time-lapse. To keep it brief. You can only post so much on Instagram, so long, like a minute, and they're like going to cut you off.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I don't have to gear it towards that, but I can't keep asking Ronnie to do this. And then by chance, I was looking at something in my Wake Up Heavy folder and I see Wake Up Heavy trailer. And I thought it was the trailer that I had done, but it said .mov or MP4 or something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't an audio file. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's that? And so I watched it and I'm like, oh yeah, Ronnie made a trailer for me 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute. And so I went to YouTube. I'm like, I don't even know where that section of YouTube is. And I'm like, oh, it must be Studio. So I clicked on that and there were 2 clips on there. The trailer you made and I did some goofy thing. I think the plan was for me and Cleo to do short video reviews or something.
Yeah.
Which never panned out. And so those were on there and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I have a channel. It was called Letterpressed because it dated back so far as like LTTR PRSSD, which was an email handle I used for a while. And so I changed it to Wake Up Heavy. And then I'm like, well, I guess I can upload Officer Big Mac on my channel. And I've had also done the mini cheeseburger thing and the sexy nugget for Cleo. So I had those and I had pieced them all together already in iMovie as I was figuring that out. So I uploaded everything, and then the Officer Big Mac was too big because I wasn't verified.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. So I did this stupid verification thing on my phone with your face or whatever.
Been there, done that.
I went ahead and uploaded it, and I was like, okay, well, I don't have to gear stuff towards Instagram now. So with the Mr. Great build, which I had already started, I was like, well, I'm not going to post everything on Instagram. I'll just give little snippets. And then when it's done, people can go watch. All of 5 people have watched it. So yeah, so I do have my own channel. It's Wake Up Heavy. The podcast is also on there through Weirding Way Media. I'll link the actual channel in this episode description for this if anybody wants to watch any of those.
Yeah, get over there.
The iMovie thing, I hate the Ken Burns effect. When you put in a just a picture and it does the zoom.
You can turn it off.
Yeah, so I'm like, you've got to be able to get rid of that. But it's like, well, how? So, of course, then you just do a Google search. How do you get rid of the fucking zoom thing on? Turn off the Ken Burns effect and just put fit or whatever. Crop. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it's fine sometimes when you actually want to zoom in on something, but I don't need that for every single frame I put in, single image picture I put in. It's annoying. And then backgrounds, what's that? So like you can create your own title page if you put in a background and then the title over that, blah, blah, blah. Slowly figuring it out. And that's part of the distraction too, is then it's like with the podcast, we're going to record all this. Then I have to go in and clean it all up and make it presentable. The iMovie part of this is the same kind of idea where film something, send it to my computer and then pull it in and plop it right into the iMovie project and then go from there. Then film another video and then pop it in and blah, blah, blah. The channel is just a place for me to dump stuff.
Yeah.
I'm telling this to you and I'm telling this to the audience. I have no grand scheme for this. And don't give me those raised eyebrows because I know what you're thinking. I don't want to monetize. I don't care if Mr. Grape only ever has 5 views. I'm not out to promote, no Patreon page, nothing. It's for me to dump this shit. If 5 people are interested or they only make it halfway through, great.
My raised eyebrows are actually because that's the only reason to have a YouTube channel. People who start YouTube channels to become monetized or to grab people's attention and get the most subscribers and to do all that.
I don't have the energy for that.
All of that puts me off, to be honest with you. And the YouTube channels that I find myself most attracted to or that I trust the most, that I enjoy watching the most, are the ones that don't seem to be trying to grab the viewer's attention on purpose. What are those called? Like a bait and switch. Like Dustin Cropsboy, when you watch his channel, there's a level of honesty there that is what I'm looking for. If you get people watching you, that should be the frosting on the cake. I've been doing my channel for almost 7 years now. I mean, that's crazy to me. And I've got just over 2,500 subscribers, but that did not happen right away. And that's not a lot of subscribers compared to other channels that have been around for 6 or 7 years. What I'm getting at is that's the way to do it, Mark. Make it a place where you can just do your thing and have fun and you're basically storing memories of projects. And that's
Right.
That's why we should have podcasts. That's why we should have YouTube channels. If people want to watch, they're going to be watching the truth, not some sort of hype. That's important. So I'm glad that you feel that way.
I just don't have the energy for any of that stuff. I tried with Wake Up Heavy to quote unquote monetize that as far as Patreon, and it's just not worth the trouble to me. And the thing is with the Mr. Great build is a good example. You know, I talk for 10 minutes at the end of that thing, and I wasn't trying to talk for 10 minutes, but it's like, if that turns people off, I don't give a shit.
You shouldn't because it's real.
Now, where were we? Oh, yeah. The important thing was that I had an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. They didn't have white onions because of the war.
It's interesting because the craft or building channels that I watch, and even your stuff, like I'm going, this isn't long enough. 8 minutes to me is not, it's like I haven't watched anything. Now, for your stuff, a lot of it's because it's split up into 10, 20 parts or whatever. But even to mention Toy Polloi again, a lot of his stuff recently has been fairly short.
Mm-hmm.
It's like got to the point where it stops and I haven't been fully engaged yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's one of the most frequent critiques on my channel is the length of the videos. And I think even with Toy Polloi, I mean, any channel that has short videos on there, usually that's the result of real life. There are certain expectations for viewers if you consider that what YouTube audiences prefer, they prefer consistency over almost everything else. If you want to keep the people who watch your channel, consistency is the key. But if it doesn't matter to you, then you just do whatever you want. And I promised at the beginning of this massive builds that I would do a video a week. And for me, those time-lapse videos, and not a lot of viewers realize this, and I guess I could adjust it. Every year I'm learning something new. But the time-lapse videos usually document, at least 5 to 10 hours of effort. It shows up as like an 8-minute video, for example. So
I'm not criticizing the length of that stuff because I understand the end goal. It's more for people like Dustin Cropsboy or Toy Polloi who employ a little bit of time lapse for the build part of their videos, but I kind of like the talking part of their videos.
Yeah, I do too.
Don't mind seeing, and they both do this differently. Toy Polloi is all talk. He talks throughout his whole process thing, and then there are little interspersions of time lapse. Dustin Cropsboy sort of does the same thing, but it's more talk and then build stuff, either time lapse or normal rate, and then talk, and then, so it's a little different. I do hear, though, even from like Toy Polloi and other places, like gearing stuff towards viewers. For me, at least, that goes against like your point for being here. I've mentioned this before, but I've watched all of Toy Polloi, nearly every Toy Polloi video. And so the early ones from like 13 years ago are very short. And I know that that's because there was probably, especially at that time, a time limit until you got to a certain point.
Verified, yeah.
And I don't know how the verification took longer. I got verified in a couple hours just by doing that thing. And that might not have been available 13 years ago. It was probably more by producing videos or something like that. So they were all very short, and then at some point they got pretty long. Like the $6 Million Man videos that I watched, they're like 40 minutes, and I love those, and I rewatch them.
Yeah.
So when I hop on now and I see stuff, it's all like 8, 10, 12 minutes, and I'm like, I want more.
And there are people that want 5 to 8 minute videos, and there are people who want longer videos. And the truth is, unless you're already purposefully trying to maintain subscribers or gain subscribers, all it comes down to is consistency. For channels like Toy Polloi that has a ton of subscribers, at a certain point, it becomes a responsibility as opposed to just for fun. It gets real complicated because I think most people who are genuinely excited about the projects they're working on decide to document it because their enthusiasm is there. Their approach is true. At some point, it still becomes a job, especially if money starts to roll in. That becomes then a responsibility.
He has talked about the money part of it, and it doesn't, even for someone with that many subscribers, it doesn't make him a lot of money. He still has a job. And I think that that's backwards thinking. Not that he's thinking that way specifically, but anybody who thinks that like I have to gear towards the audience, to me, is backwards thinking.
I agree.
And this goes for movies, for music, for whatever. If you're doing something, please yourself first. And if other people follow, great. If they don't, fine. If they don't want to watch the Mr. Great build because it's 30 minutes long, fuck it. I don't give a shit. This isn't putting food on my table. It's a lark. I'm not going to take it any more seriously than that. It's a lark. And if 5 people watch it, great. If 50 people end up watching it, great. I'm not going to take criticism to heart or whatever. This is too long. I don't like the music. I don't fucking care.
That's exactly what I was complimenting you on at the beginning of this conversation. It's like, do it for you. We've talked about this before on this show, and I've tried to talk about it on my channel a little bit. There's no other reason to do something, whether it be collecting or making stuff or whatever it is that people do with their time and the privilege of time. And you talked about privilege at the beginning. There's no other reason to do it than for the joy of it. And if the joy of it becomes about money for a person, that starts entering scary territory, because their joy is not then to provide a true document of joy. Their joy is then a corrupted version of that. It becomes about turning it into a business. And, more power to people who want to turn something creative into a business. Do it for the joy of it. Make this for you. Like, if people enjoy it, people enjoy it. If people don't enjoy it, people don't enjoy it. And it does become a little complicated, and I've had to deal with it myself. Like, oh, people like this, so I should give them that. And that becomes a kind of like, if you want to experience success with something, that always becomes part of the compromise. When it comes to the arts, that's one of my biggest conflicts with art making in general, is being there for your audience. It always gets to a point where if you're making something, considering the audience becomes part of it.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think artists owe people anything.
I'm not saying we have to think about our audience, but at a certain point, with success, that consideration has to happen.
And that's the avoidance I'm making. I don't care. See, that to me is you put it out there and then that's the end of it. Same with the podcasts. That part of like concerning myself with what other people think about something I did, I don't know. I just can't do that. Same with this podcast, same with Wake Up Heavy. And if no one watches those videos, it doesn't matter.
All I'm saying is that at a certain point, it becomes complicated, because inevitably, if we put something out there, whether it be music or art or podcast or YouTube video, at a certain point, people become invested. Depending on who the person is that's making that stuff, it can get a little complicated and it's difficult. I can understand how that can be difficult for them, is where I'm coming from. To have the privilege to be able to make something means that we have the privilege to experience joy the way we want to make it. Once we start to make stuff for another person, it becomes a job, just like my commissions. At a certain point, am I still enjoying this because I'm doing this commission, because I'm making some money off of it? You have to be the conscientious participator and do whatever you can do to make sure it's something that you're enjoying, despite the fact that this is a relationship now. All I'm saying is it gets complicated.
Yeah, building something for somebody is different than making videos, though.
You still have to meet their expectation.
I
mean, if I were to just do it my way, there are a lot of things I would change about the builds that I'm currently making, but because I have an obligation.
The videos, though, are different than the builds. The builds, that's a contract. The videos, you have no contract with anybody to do anything any certain way.
And to this day, the videos are so much fun for me to make. If the videos start becoming tedious for me and I don't like to do it, I'll stop doing it because fuck that. Why would I do something that I don't want to do? Yeah.
That is the reason to avoid all the other stuff, because that's when it becomes tedious, when you're constantly pouring through your comments and taking everything to heart and then trying to gear. You can't please everybody. So please yourself.
I think that critique is good. So I like to consider what people say in the comments. That doesn't mean I'm going to give them exactly what they want. I like critique because it allows me to grow. It gives me the opportunity to think about an angle that I wouldn't have considered before. And that's really cool. I like critique. And I like reading the comments because sometimes if there is critique, it's like, I'm not going to do that. That's insane. Or that's not what I'm doing here. So what are you talking about? I get weird comments sometimes. I'm like, what does that even mean? Sometimes somebody will chime in and be like, have you thought about the blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, oh, that's something I should think about. That's exciting to me.
My next venture, which I mentioned at the end of the Mr. Great build, is to dive into those Franconia Tomy walkers and the connection with the pencil toppers. So that won't be a build video. It'll be something totally different. And I'm already dreading how to clip all that stuff together and have talking pretty much the whole time, but keep it interesting without it just being a talking head video.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that goes. That's next on my list, other than the builds I'm currently doing. And not really builds. I need another term because I'm not building Snake Mountain or Castle Grayskull. I'm just...
I mean, you could say sculpts. That's what they are, but they are still building. It's whatever you want to call it.
Can't think of a better term.
I really like what you're doing, so thank you for doing it.
It's all for you, Ronnie. I made the whole thing just for you.
I knew it. And I appreciate it, Mark.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
So you and Jules and myself are the subscribers. It doesn't show you who the subscribers are, but I can figure it out pretty easily. Since I am subscribed and I have two others.
If you've got a certain number of subscribers and you've gotten responses from them, then you pretty much know what's going on.
Unless they're not counting me as a subscriber, since I'm the content creator.
I can't remember how that works. Essentially, one of the things that I love about having my channel is being able to go back in time and re-experience these projects. And that's exciting to me. And that's the main reason why I have it. It's cool.
But why can't I join your gang?
Because you were a whip scientist and you could be a whip villain.
All right, what are we on to now?
Speaking of considering our audiences, I am at the stage with my builds where the anxiety is kicking in. I know that the structures of these are huge, as you know. I'm happy with the progress. By the time people will listen to this, episode 10 will be out, and that will be a longer episode. And also, I have figured out as of recently that at this rate, the building of them will be done by the end of April, and the painting of them will begin, and very small detail work will begin at the beginning of May. And so I'm excited that I'm on track, but it's terrifying. I keep waking up in the middle of the night thinking about, okay, when I rent the U-Haul, who's going to help me move them into the U-Haul, and driving it down, going over the Grapevine in a 20-foot U-Haul. And I've done it before, but I haven't done it since the early 2000s. And, you know, when I get there, just because someone told me that the doors are big enough, will the doors be big enough? My anxiety is starting to show up now. If worse comes to worse, I'll just fucking have them outside the venue in Redondo Beach and just put some tables out there in the parking lot. But I know it won't be that way. It'll work because they fit through double doors. As long as that's the case, then I'm in good shape. Speaking of which, I recommend, if anyone listening to this lives in California, that you consider coming to the Motooniverse convention, showing up to see these things in person. I know of the people that listen to this channel, I'm speaking directly to California people, Central California people primarily. So it would be really cool if people came. I'm going to just mention what some of the schematics are. It's not an expensive convention. It's about $55 for a weekend pass. It's $33 for a one-day pass. And all the information for the convention where, there's going to be other people who have made stuff there. And plus, if you listen to this podcast, you're probably interested in vintage toys and things. There's going to be a lot of vendors selling vintage toys. It's May 23rd and May 24th. So what is that, Memorial Day weekend? I will have my stuff on display. Other people will have their stuff on display. If you listen to this, because we've talked about Masters of the Universe before, the voice of Skeletor, Alan Oppenheimer, he's getting up there in years. He's going to be there.
You royal boob.
Rudy Obrero, one of my favorite artists from the original Masters of the Universe toy line, he's going to be there. I'm kind of geeking out about that because I love his artwork. Melindy Britt, who's the voice of She-Ra, she's going to be there. A ton of other guests related to Masters of the Universe will be there as well. There'll probably be some pretty cool movie tie-in stuff too. I'm excited. I'm anxious. I'm nervous. And what was the term our daughters used to use a lot when they were younger was nerve-sighted. So I'm starting to get nerve-sighted about this.
Is Allison Brie going to be there?
I don't know yet.
The only possible way I would go.
Allison Brie is turning out to be a badass. Like, she's making good choices as far as the films she's doing lately. I know that the people behind the convention have reached out to some of the folks that are in the new movie. So there's a good chance, Mark. I'll let you know if we get notification on that. I'm stoked to meet Alan Oppenheimer. He was the voice of also, I don't know if you know this, he was also the voice of Falkor from The Neverending Story, the big dragon dog.
He's done lots of voice work.
Done a ton of voice work.
Alan Oppenheimer was also one of the 3 actors who portrayed Dr. Rudy Wells on The $6 Million Man.
So yeah, I just wanted to take a moment and talk about that because I'm not worried about people not going to the convention because it's inevitable. There's going to be a lot of people there. But it would be cool if you listen to this podcast or if you watch the Skelevator channel or anything. It'd be cool if some people showed up and were like, hey, it's cool to see these giant things in person. I wish they were better.
Why didn't you do that? You should have done it.
Exactly. That's what's going to happen.
That is a Dustin Cropsboy thing. He posted on Facebook the you should have done.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff like, I don't care what I should have done. It didn't do it. It's obviously already finished, right? So what the fuck does that do me any good? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I know there's better ways to do this. I'm working on this Mr. Apple right now, and it's going to be a mess because I'm doing everything wrong, but that's okay because I'm doing something to keep my mind from thinking about this horrible world we live in.
One of the things that I always go back to, I'm going to relate this to Masters of the Universe because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm making these builds, is that the original toy line is imperfect. There's tons of weird design choices that the artists who designed Castle Grayskull and designed Snake Mountain and the action figures, they cut corners, they took chances, they didn't think about symmetry in a lot of their play sets and their design work. And a lot of this stuff was hand drawn. The imperfections are visible. One of my biggest issues with the newer stuff is that the symmetry is there. Like, why does Castle Grayskull have to be so symmetrical? The new one, for example, I owned it for a little bit and then I sold it because nothing matches the artistry of the original Castle Grayskull. It's not perfect. It's super weird looking. There's all kinds of wonky design choices. And when it comes to making stuff, if people want perfection, they don't understand the truth of what it means to make something by hand. There's a lot of great photorealistic painters out there. The photorealistic paintings that really resonate with me are the ones that there's something strange happening in there. There's something off. Perfection does nothing for me. Seeing people in the comments on like Dustin Cropsboy or other YouTube channels for creators. Is it Steady Craftin'? Is that the name of the channel? There's another one that's super great.
Yeah, I can't get into that channel.
Sometimes the comments are like, you got to think about blah, 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 or you got to think about blah, 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 or what about this doesn't look like the original or whatever. Of course it doesn't, because it's handmade or it's built in the moment, and the moment will always change. What's so much fun about, like, for example, looking at your burger builds compared to my burger build that's over here, it's like, this is very clearly mine. Yours are very clearly yours. That's what makes them priceless. That's what makes them wonderful. And that's what makes the experience of it so memorable. And you take all that away and replace it with perfection. Where's the good stuff? Where's the, what's the word, the phrase I'm looking for? Where's the
personal touch?
Yeah, where's the personal touch? Yeah.
I don't know if that's the phrase you were looking for, but
it's something along those lines. There's always going to be a critic. If we put something out there, there's always going to be a voice that says, what about this? Or why didn't you do this? And that's just the way it's going to be.
I probably won't even respond if I get comments like that, to be honest with you.
Folks, if you're listening to this, make sure you go over and subscribe to Mark's Wake Up Heavy YouTube channel
and critique the hell out of
the hell out of his builds. Give him something to not respond to.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. I think energy spent worrying about what people think is energy wasted. The people we should be most concerned with is like our loved one. Are we being good to folks around us?
Right. And I have never left a negative comment on a YouTube video, podcast, or anything. It's just like, why bother?
What a waste of time and energy. Yeah. If you were talking about privilege, there's a privilege that comes with being able to step away from the news and do something to make yourself happy. The people that abuse that privilege by delving into negativity, what the hell are you thinking? There's so many better things to do.
Go kick rocks.
I don't know. Go punch a wall or something. At least that's constructive.
I don't know.
Or destructive. I guess it's destructive. But maybe, go to therapy. How about that?
Find something that gives you joy. If watching videos that other people make or listening to podcasts makes you angry, then go do something else. It's just that simple.
Yeah. Similarly, all the people out there that are complaining about the new Masters of the Universe movie trailer, if you're a real fan of Masters of the Universe, you're going to take what you can get. Let it go, man. At least there's a movie being made. We haven't had a movie since 1987. That one's not great, but I still love it. The new Toxic Avenger movie, I don't know if you've watched it yet, but I was so excited about it. And when I watched it, I was very disappointed. But then I watched parts of it again and I was like, why am I disappointed? It's crappy, and that's what it is. The Toxic Avenger movies are crappy. At least we have something that's super weird and that garnered some attention. I didn't go out there and complain because my opinion might change.
Well, who are you going to complain to?
Yeah. You go to Troma and be like, this new version of the movie sucks. What am I going to do? Complain to the director? What a waste.
People make themselves feel better about themselves by doing stuff like that. And it's part of the internet world that we live in, and everybody's opinion is valid and matters. And it's like, no, it actually doesn't. Your opinion doesn't matter about this thing.
When I was a kid, I hated the 1987 Masters of the Universe movie because it didn't give me what I wanted.
Yeah.
20, 30 years later, I love that thing. Be careful what you put out there because your opinions are going to change. Not that they might, they are going to change. We change. Some of us change more than others, but...
Yeah, and that's why, to go off on another tangent, Wake Up Heavy is all about stuff I like. I don't like talking about movies I don't like, and I got kind of sucked into that with other projects, and I just can't do it anymore. I'm not going to do something like the Chevy Chase podcast again because there were way too many movies that we had to watch that I just didn't like. And I don't like talking about stuff I don't like because it just turns into, I mean, you can kind of try and gear yourself to talk about the production or the this or the that and make something interesting. But after a while, it's like, this is the 5th movie we've watched that I don't like. And what is there to talk about? I didn't like it. And I don't like sitting there picking things apart just for the purpose of creating content. Yeah. So I want to talk about stuff that I like. That's what this show is all about.
That's right.
Wake Up Heavy is generally all about that. I don't think I have even when I've invited people on with their movies, like we did The Howling with you, and, I've done some other ones, they might not be things that were favorites of mine, but I found some appreciation of them. But if to do a movie that I hated, well, I don't even see the point.
The moment you do a whole podcast about a movie that you hate, just like if you were to do a podcast about a movie that you love, you're confirming that that's your stance. And our stances do change. And our stances may evolve, may de-evolve. Who knows what's going to happen? But what I think the main thing is that it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive.
Yeah.
You're making a decision to do things that you want to do in all of your content creation endeavors. And that's almost the harder job than to start a podcast where you complain about movies. Or I think it's an honorable decision to do what you want to do and stick to your guns. It's a harder choice.
Well, I'm not a particularly positive person in general, but I just don't see the point in miring yourself in negativity, hate watching, or spewing your negative comments all over the internet world. What's the point of that? I guess it makes you feel better. I don't know.
What's really funny is that we're doing that about it right now.
Well,
we're complaining about the complaining.
Yeah, so stop complaining, people.
It becomes a snake eating its own tail after a while.
Well, I don't got anything else. I don't have a locale or tasty treat to talk about. What do you have?
We'll probably have something next time because there is always a tasty treat.
Yeah, what was the last tasty treat I had? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what next time will bring. Gonna have to go through my list.
By the time next month's episode airs, there will be a lot of new things happening in our lives. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll be practically done with my builds or close to being done with my builds. I will be a little bit less of my focus, less of my anxiety, because things will be a little bit more concrete with all that. You'll be done with your Apple.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows what the future brings? We'll see if the United States still exists.
Oh, God. Alrighty. Well, I guess that's it. So thanks for sticking around if you made it to the end of this episode. And join us next month for Old Men Yell at Clouds Part 2, I guess.
Yeah.
Or
love it.
36, I guess.
But remember, have fun, stay weird, and keep collecting.
Unless you're Ronnie, then stop collecting.
It never really stops. I didn't talk about it. I bought several paperbacks and a couple of Marx Brothers books, and I haven't talked about that yet. We've just been talking about plastic. I've been breaking my rule in other ways, I guess. Not plastic-related things, which might show up in the next episode. Cliffhanger.
Josh, I'm going to have to tell him. About my weirdness? I'm sorry, Josh.
Cambridge and Rashawn is a Weirding Way Media podcast.
Which was the style at the time.